Hey, before you start the podcast episode, I just want to lay out a couple terms and conditions that you're going to have to follow in order to watch this show. The first one is go ahead and follow so you never miss another episode of the podcast ever again. The second one is share this episode with a friend who might find value in what I said or what a guest spoke about. And the third one is go ahead, if you haven't already, write a review for the podcast. It's one of the only ways that this podcast gets shown to other people and we get to grow the show organically. And without further ado, let's get you into the next episode of Not Another Podcast. I hope you enjoy. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Yeah, I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Woke up probably about 20 minutes ago or so, because it's actually about 6 in the morning here.
Yeah, fair. It's so early for you right now.
Yeah, we love the time zone changes. We absolutely love that. What time is it exactly on your end?
Yeah, it's 8:16 p.m.
8:16 p.m. Crazy. What have you been up to today? What is a day in the life of Jamie look like? Actually, before we get into that, welcome to the podcast, everybody. If you're watching on video, welcome to our conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed today. We're going to be talking to Jamie about his story and about some of the stuff that he does in the VR realm, photography, and anything else that we stumble upon in conversation. So, Jamie, if you just want to take a sec, kind of introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, my name's Jamie. Currently, I've been developing professionally in the VR space for video games for about 2 years. I studied at a place called AIE in Canberra for 2 years, graduated that, and yeah, I've been rolling through that ever since. I do dabble in photography a little bit. I haven't been doing that much lately. Gotcha. But yeah, I do want to dabble in a bit more. Also, I want to get into like music production. So many things I want to do, but right now I'm so focused on VR and like game development at the moment. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's like the primary thing that you're chasing, like right this second, with a lot of other interests, kind of waiting to.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm pretty full time on VR development at the moment. But hopefully, when I can get my schedule on track, it's always a bit all over the place. When you're working from home as well, especially, it's it can be difficult to really hone in on like a specific schedule. I'm still kind of sorting that out, and then as well, like I got work so much during the day, and then it's like, oh, do I rest or do I work more on this thing? Yeah, just juggling a bunch of stuff at the moment. Yeah.
Of course. No, I understand that completely right now with going full time into like photography myself and video myself. Awesome. And also wanting to balance like performing arts and stuff like that. It's really hard to find balances between different things that you have like passions.
Yeah.
So you said you've been doing the professional development for the VR realm for about 2 years now?
Yep. That's been mainly on Pavlov VR.
Pavlov VR. So is that a company or is that a game specifically?
That's a game specifically. The company is called Bankrupt Games, and we're developing Pavlov VR at the moment. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, so I guess tell me a little bit more about what got you into the VR development realm. What led into it? Where did you get the skills to say, oh yeah, I definitely want to study how to design, like 3D environments and stuff like that for games, and then going into it, like where did you find that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't really specifically want to develop in the VR space. It's kind of just how it ended up happening. The skills I learned at uni kind of carry over into VR. It's just when you're developing for VR, everything has to be a lot more like optimized in a sense in the way you like produce your arts, because everything with VR is like you have 2 screens for each eye, so everything needs to be rendered twice, so we need to start optimizing for all that. But mainly I really wanted to get into, well, it all started basically when my dad, he brought me a bunch of comic books and I really liked those, and I just started drawing those, and that's when I started getting into art. And I discovered a program called Blender about 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah, good old Blender. It's come a long way since then. Oh my god. But yeah, and then I started making a few models, picked up computer programming in high school, and then from there I started making the art for those games. But I wasn't too much into the program, but I really started enjoying the art. And then I had a friend of mine as well who was also really into it, and from there we thought, let's chase this. And we went to uni together, and yeah. From there really I've just been chasing it. Yeah.
Just been putting it out there. That's wild. And you said so you went to uni, you studied it, and then you got out, and then you started doing it pretty
Yeah.
much immediately. Pavlov VR, you've been doing it for about 2 years on that one game. Was that like one of the first gigs that you nailed right out the door, and they've just kind of like stuck around all this time with you,
Yeah,
or?
actually, yeah, I was very, very fortunate in that fact because at the end of our studies, we have like an industry day where people come
Uh-huh.
in and check out like our portfolios that we've been producing throughout the years. And one of the guys there, he really liked what I was doing, and I ended up getting an email a couple weeks after I graduated to work on some stuff. It wasn't straight on to Pavlov; it was like another project, and that kind of died down. And then once we started doing Pavlov, I've just been doing that, yeah, ever since then. I was really fortunate that this guy like picked me up and was like, "Yo, come work for me," and yeah, it's been working out. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I did take a look at your ArtStation portfolio because that's where you have everything listed as far as
Ah,
like your
yes,
Instagram
awesome,
portfolio, and then
mad,
you
yeah,
have the ArtStation portfolio. You have Pavlov on there, you have Zomnom, Morbus, and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
And what I really, really like about the portfolio, specifically about what you've been developing, is that you have the map, pictures of it, or screen caps of it, and then you also have some BTS, you have design, you have befores and afters, you have literal like the making of, just
yeah,
to show a little bit more of the process. And I think that like Pavlov was fun to see all of the different aspects of that map, but Zomnom specifically gave me a lot of context through looking at it on your ArtStation portfolio, not knowing much about the design aspect of it myself. The stuff that you have on the Zomnom portfolio gave me a massive, massive idea of like exactly what goes into it.
yeah.
And looking at it, I'm like, I don't know. Um, there were a few questions that I had when you're assembling the map, because there were it kind of looked like there were two stages. There's like the assembly, or there's construction, assembly, and dressing, is kind of what
Yeah.
I like kind of nailed it down to. In some of your footage that showed the map being like assembled or built, it would then come into like press into the map, and then it would cut to that part of the map being used in game,
Yeah.
but it would cut to a dressed version of it. Do you handle the construction, assembly, or dressing, or do you do all of that, like the details and stuff like that as well? Or do you have a team? Is it a solo thing? Do you outsource? How do you manage a project like that from start to end?
Yeah, so game development is heavily team based. Um, so in that project specifically, Zomdom, we had two artists and a designer, and I think it was two programmers. So what we did as artists was, I think there's a guy called Ned, and he was the character artist. So all the characters you see, the zombie, the enemies you see running around, he created all those, and then my job was to create the environment. But the what you have to do as well when you have a designer on board is you have to make sure you create all these assets and make them understandable for the designer to be able to make levels out of them. I think what primarily happens is designer comes up with levels, and then you as environment artist have to figure out how you can piece together a very nice looking environment for the player to be able to traverse
Sure.
around, and then be able to have pieces that the designer can use in order to create the level how they want, because they're specifically, their job is to make sure that the game is playable and fun for the player,
Of
and
course.
I have to come in with all these pieces that make it look really nice. So they would do like a block out, so you'd have like pieces of it would be like just like a cube would be like a floor, and you'd have like walls and ceilings also cubes, and then yeah, I would come in and make the floor like wood or something, and then make it modular so that the designer can snap each little piece of wood and build it out how they want. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you guys work in correlation there. So you're actually kind of like building the environment in which a designer comes in and says, this is how it's going to look.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, at the beginning of a project, because you said Pavlov has been going on for about 2 years now, is that 2 years of like day job type work, or is that 2 years of like, all right, I worked for few weeks or a couple months or a couple days on this part of the map or this piece of the game, and then you have to wait a while to hear back from somebody? Like, what is the process of developing a VR game like Pavlov where the project time is so extended?
Yeah, with Pavlov, I've actually been full time on that, and at the moment
Wow.
we don't we work interesting. I can't even say that word right now. Interestingly, with ups because
Pavlov broke him.
yeah, Pavlov has broken me. So we are hired by Bankrupt Games because I'm actually part of an outsourcing studio called Upsurge,
Okay.
and we are hired basically full time by Bankrupt to build and design levels and layouts for Bankrupt. And it works a little bit differently. We don't really have designers per se, so on this team I'm more of a generalist. So the main map I worked on was Santorini. So I pitched like the idea of like this map we're going to do is Santorini, and we wanted to develop it for say a search and destroy type game mode, like if you've seen CS:GO or like all
Yeah.
those like really competitive, so you got to like go in, plant a bomb, that kind of thing. Yeah, so a competitive map. And in that case, it was really just from the ground up. I would come up with like a design for the layout, and then we'd go from there and just continue to build up. If you're lucky as well, you get a concept artist, and we did have a concept artist on our team, and they'd basically paint a picture of what the level would look like, and then it gives you, oh my god, it's so good to have a concept artist because then it's so good to just able to visualize the levels. Like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna make. And then yeah, it's come up with all the pieces that you need for that. I really want to at some point put out more detailed breakdowns on the stuff I've done with Pavlov, like in Zomnom.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just when I have time, it would be really cool to show everyone how that stuff is built and broken down. It's all
Yeah.
basically modular pieces, and then you have to optimize all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's one thing that like I noticed on the ArtStation BTS that you have available. It shows the model. It shows the model being assembled. However, I still have questions like, did he have to design those AC units, or those AC units built into the program he's using? Or did he have to build a wall? Or did he have to have an artist make the art for the wall? Or did he do that? Like stuff, little
Yeah,
details
yeah.
like that like nobody would probably care about except for me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I'd love to literally sit and watch an hour and a half of you literally designing a house that then gets stuck into the game. And then I would love to then see the artist's perspective as they dress it, or vice versa, whatever you guys do. Like that would be really, really interesting to see from an outsider perspective. Just something, if you wanted to throw
Yeah,
out.
well, it really depends on the team. I think there's so many different aspects that go into that. You can really have a job for everything. There's like texturing, 3D modeling, design, all that stuff. And at the moment, we have software that really help us to get through a lot of the bulk of the stuff that would normally be, let's say, in a AAA studio. Um, Textures, you'd probably have someone that works in a program called Substance Designer, where you basically build out physically based textures with just like nodes. I don't know how these people do it. It's nuts. And the stuff that they produce looks really insanely real and it's awesome. But the way I work, because we don't have like so many people, we don't have someone like to specifically work on textures. A lot of the modeling and design work is done by myself, and then we bring like our models into a program called Substance Painter, and then in there that's kind of built out, and we buy licenses for that, and then we can use um, all the substances available on that. Say if we're making an asset and we need like some kind of wood material, we'd go in there, we'd search wood, and there'd be like a bunch of planks, and it's all procedural as well, so you can customize it to how you would want like that specific wood to look without having to completely build that, but like from scratch, or like take photos and photo scan it in. So it's really helpful having that kind of stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's almost excuse me. It's almost like stock footage or stock photos for, or like your stock resources for different like textures and aspects and stuff like that
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah, those kind of libraries, Substance Painter and Megastans, I use a lot, especially when you're developing realistic looking games.
Gotcha.
They've got such a good library, especially Megascans as well, because they literally just they take 3D scans of just everything you would really want of like to create as part of like a real world scenario, and you can just
Right.
use that. If you're using Unreal Engine as well, like this stuff is crazy. It's all just for free. You can just drag it in
Really?
and then customize it however you like, and just produce like your own kind of artwork with that. Yeah,
That's really, really neat.
yeah, it's getting
So
really cool at the moment.
lots of innovation in the industry.
Yeah, lots of like a lot of things are becoming free, especially with Unreal Engine, and Unreal 5 is coming out. It's getting crazy.
Now, actually, this just popped into my head. How, because the way that I relate to that is like within photography, within video, within media in general, we have stock footage and stock photos. And then we have people going out and creating all of this stock imagery. And then we have people that are trying to sell their stock images or stock videos for anywhere between 10, 50, 100 to $200 a piece for the licenses. And then there are these subscription services that come out, and you can pay $400 a year or $600 a year to get unlimited downloads of all of this stuff. So comparably speaking, when you have people that sell assets versus people that put their stuff up, or engines that exist like Unreal Engine, how do you think that affects the industry as far as the people that have been out there creating assets and then trying to sell them? Like, what do you think they're going to have to do here soon? Because clearly, eventually, they're not going to be able to do it because people are going to rather go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I get what you're saying, because there's so much of the stuff is becoming available for free. It might become harder for, I guess, the more indie artists trying to like produce their own work and do their own thing with
Right.
that. Yeah, I think for them to stand out, they would really have to look at what games are being made, what like small industry studios are after in terms of like assets. So they'd want to put together an asset pack, or like a material pack or something that is unique and also very usable for a lot of other studios out there. So I
Right.
see a lot of there's a lot of like tree asset packs, like lots of grass textures. There's all these very repeatable materials and assets. If you want to be able to stand out in that field, you're gonna have to create something that's really realistic, like has to be really up there, professional with what Megascans is doing. So I guess there's a lot you can stand out a lot in the stylized side, because
Gotcha.
especially with Megascans, they're doing stuff that's all like mostly realistic, scanning real world stuff in. Substance Painter has gone a little bit towards the stylized side because that is procedural. They don't have to scan it from the real world. They can like create it with nodes and math and do kind of artistic things with it. But there's still room, I think, for stylized art or textures. There's a lot of courses as well. Learning is a big thing. So if you want to create assets and create like a course around those assets, I think is a really good move. So especially if it's a stylized scene, you can develop a stylized scene, say in Unreal Engine, show people how to make it. And if they would like to purchase the assets that are a result of it, or they would like to follow the tutorial, I think that's a good way to like get yourself out there.
That's awesome. Now you
Yeah.
keep throwing out the phrase scanning things in, which now that you say it makes perfect sense. I didn't even think that that was like an option. I always thought that these
Yeah.
people were just like unreal artists. Anyway, when you
All just
scan
doing stuff for
something
hand. Yeah.
in, what scanner are you using to scan something to get the texture necessary to input
Yeah.
it onto a surface? Are you using, are there special scanners you can buy and use? Is this just a basic
Not
photo
really.
scanner?
No,
Like
you
what
don't
is
really
this?
need any specific scanners. I think that some do exist. There are probably some really crazy things out there, but all you really need is like a mobile phone camera, or you could get a DLSR, and you just need it. All you need to do is like you gotta do it with your phone. You just go, you get the object you want to use. And a lot of people do this with rocks. They go out and scanning like a forest, make a forest environment. So you go out, you find like a really nice rock on the ground. And if you're scanning outside, you want to make sure like it's an overcast day, so you don't get any intrusions of like sunlight and shadows, because
Yep.
you add that like in your program. So yeah, all you need to do is take a photo from every angle of the object that you want to scan in. And then we have a software. God, I forget what it's called, because I haven't actually really done this myself. But people, they plug it into a
Sure.
software, and then the software looks at all the images and interpolates where they are in like relation to the object, and then kind of just builds
Wow.
like a point cloud of all the points in space that
Yep.
this object exists, and then from there it somehow just creates a 3D model and then unwraps it's like UV coordinates and slaps like the images you took onto the model, and then you have like this
What?
insanely nice, just like photo scanned asset you can use. Yeah.
That's
But
wild.
then from there there is a bit of work in making it look I guess, or react to light the way you would want it to, because you're only getting like the diffuse color on that texture. We have things that like normal maps and specular and roughness maps that so you apply it to the model so that when you shine the light at the say your photo scan, you'd start to see, say if it was glass, it would reflect light, or like it would like have like a specular highlight on it, like how it should if you properly set up the map for that. And you add in like normal maps to show that it's like a bumpy surface and for the light to react to that properly, all that
Sure.
kind of thing. Yes, scanning is actually, especially a lot of people use it, I think, in the VFX world as well, because you can just scan things in really quickly, and if it's not like a hero asset of the scene, you can just scatter these rocks around and they'll look pretty damn good if you just comp it into a scene and it's not like the center of attention. I think, yeah, a lot of people
That's
do that.
wild.
Yeah, it's
That's
nuts.
freaking awesome. The kind of software. So now that begs the question, between everything that you guys are doing, what's more intense? Playing the game, or like what's more intense on like a computer system? Playing the game or designing it? Which
Oh
one's gonna
man,
kill
well,
your computer faster?
you need a beefy PC for both. I think it depends what kind of game you're working on. Some of it's like when you're creating assets as well, say if you're making a character, some of these characters like for AAA games, even I think even in engine they render it like millions of polygons, but like when you're actually sculpting the detail, people do in a program called ZBrush. It's basically just imagine sculpting clay but digitally,
Gotcha.
and you can use that to have like tens of millions of triangles, and then from there you can just manipulate that mesh however you'd like. So you have like a face, you could even have like pores in a face being like specific mesh, but then obviously you can't render that like real time in a video game, so then there's a big process you have to go through in order to get that polygon down and optimized to run smoothly in a real time game. Like that kind of
Gotcha.
thing you could probably use for VFX, is like, because it's like pre-rendered kind of thing. But yeah, well, actually as well with Unreal Engine 5, we're leading into a more of a scene where we don't actually have to do that process. It's pretty nuts with the new system called Nanite in Unreal. I've been seeing people have like hundreds, oh no, I think it was like tens of billions or hundreds of billions of triangles
Oh my
being
lord.
rendered in real time, which is nuts. Yeah, if you know, like
That's
a
wild.
triangle as well as like a face of a mesh, and all these meshes are made up of triangles, and the more
Right.
triangles there are, the more dense it is, and then the harder it is to render, basically. Yeah,
Well, yeah, because it has to render each one individually. What it
yeah,
essentially, if I'm
yeah.
understanding it correctly, it allows you to have more detail in a specific set of space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And the more of those there are, the more it's gonna absolutely
Yeah,
send your
just
computer to Mars.
yeah,
So
yeah. Think of it like it's like a grid. So the less squares there are on a grid, the less detail you can have in it. If you want to like create like dents in it, the points can only be so far apart, or however you want to think about it. But yeah, if the grid is
right,
more dense, you can have more detail. Yeah.
that's wild. So back to Pavlov, because you've been doing that for even with them for the 2 years. Do you work with them? And I guess this also bleeds into like career wise for past, present, and future. Do you work with Pavlov like for Pavlov or the company that's
Bankrupt
above it,
games.
Bankrupt Games, or do you work for them as a freelance designer?
I would say I'm oh, what's the word? What's the term for it? Um I forget the specific term, but it's not like I'm hired by. I'm not. Well, I'm. It's like Bankrupt pays Upsurge, and then I get paid by Upsurge. I'm basically hired by
Okay, so
Upsurge, and then
contractor.
yeah, subcontractor. That's the
It's
word.
like
Yeah, I'm a
a subcontractor. Yeah,
subcontractor.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
So you're
so
brought on not to be a part of like the team, the company. However, you're brought on to Pavlov as a designer for the project.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. And then As far as like the future goes, let's say you finish off Pavlov. Like, how far along are you guys in 2 years' time? How far along are you guys in a game like that? Do you guys have set release dates? Do you guys have like a lot of the game complete, or are you only like a fraction of the way there? What is the timeline like
Yeah,
that?
well, indie development can take a long time, and
Yeah,
you don't want to be also like in a phase called like development hell, where you just spend like your whole career just on this one game. There is times where you need to move on, you need to start something fresh, create
of
a new
course.
IP, and see where you can go from there. I think Pavlov has been in development for a while now, maybe like 5 years or more, because it started out with this one guy, Dave Vills, who created the company, and then he from there he had he built the team up. We kept hiring people, and then the game became success. It's one of the most successful VR first person shooters out at the moment, which is nuts.
Wow,
And we're looking to hopefully finish it by maybe next year,
that's
and
awesome.
then move on to creating other projects. Yeah, if I want to
That's
stick around with
incredible.
these guys, which it looks like I'll be able to. Yeah, we keep pumping out stuff, and occasionally we do. We just went through a little game jam thing that was really fun, where we just halted all Pavlov for like a week, and we made a little game like just in house. That was really fun to do that.
That's a lot of fun. That's good that you still get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
explore other little projects and stuff like that. And get to
Yeah,
have
and then
fun with it
maybe
while
maybe
not
those
focusing.
game projects, could become, something big, and we can develop a little bit more, and then bring
Yeah,
that out as just like a smaller title, something a little bit less big and daunting than the whole VR multiplayer space. Yeah, just some like a little,
right.
2D game you can just play on your computer. Yeah, it doesn't have to be as complicated. Yeah, it was good to take a
Sure, of
break
course.
from all the
Yeah.
VR stuff and work on that.
So, as far as the future goes for you, let's say in a year and a half, you close the Pavlov project. As far not well, you guys finish it, release it, and then all of a sudden, like you're good. You don't have to work on that one anymore. And let's say they don't have another project right away that you're going to be starting on. For yourself as a subcontractor or a freelancer in the space, how do you go about marketing yourself as a environment designer? For do you reach out to people? Do you wait for people to come to you? Do you have any marketing strategies? Do you like, what is that process like for you for building your brand as what you do?
Okay, I get you. Yeah. So ArtStation is pretty huge as a 3D environment artist. If I were not so full time on Pavlov, I would be doing a lot more breakdowns of the work I've already created. It's really good to, if you have a solid piece of work, to be able to break it down and show people how you created it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd just be pumping as much as I could out on my portfolio. I'd be
Good.
posting about it, not just on ArtStation, but on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, basically any platform that you can show your artwork
Right.
on and explain it, and just get eyeballs onto it. You can also, if I were to be looking for work as well, you reach out to people that are looking to hire, or talk to people that you know as well. A lot of the industry, unfortunately, as well, is based around the people you know and connections you can make. So
Sure.
networking is pretty big. So as many people you can come into contact and show your work to, I think is really valuable. Yeah, and I think mainly like it's all about portfolio and what you can like show off. I don't think you need to
Gotcha.
go to like university for this kind of thing. As long as you can build a really nice portfolio of really nice art and be able to explain that, that is just the go. Yeah.
That's awesome. So for somebody like, so you've been chasing it like hardcore for about the 2 years, because that's about when you got on a Pavlov and stuff.
Yeah.
Prior to that, did you have a mini portfolio built up? Like, obviously through uni, you most likely had built some stuff to create a little portfolio. That's obviously how the people saw you. But prior to uni, had you created anything, or were you like fresh to the gate?
I wasn't super fresh because I told you before I was doing some stuff in Blender, so I was kind of
Right.
dabbling in. I started out in Unity actually, like creating games. I had like a little level with like some hills and some grass because you have to show something to the university that we were interested in this and that we wanted to learn that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, so it wasn't completely fresh.
Gotcha. So you had a little bit of experience. What would you say to someone that came to you right now and said, "I've been messing around doing almost exactly what you've been doing. I've been messing around in Blender. I really, really enjoy the design aspect, and I really want to start this as like a potential job opportunity. Where should I go from here?
Oh, so is this someone? Have they already have like art to show
This
off,
is
or is it
this is
just like they're
somebody
just
this is somebody
interested in
that's
it
been
and
creating.
they
They've been
want to get into it?
creating on an amateur basis. They've been kind of creating on their own, creating different environments, but haven't gotten a professional gig yet where they've actually created for like a game or something like that for somebody else, and want to try to get that first gig. They want to chase this as a potential side hustle slash career opportunity. What would you tell them to do? Where would you tell them to go? How would you encourage them to do so as a new upcoming digital designer,
Hmm.
artist, or in any other capacity in which you have worked in or have worked with?
Yeah. Okay. I would say if they're up to it, because I know it can be difficult to not go out and go to uni. There is things you can do though where if you're in a city, there's things called or there's like meetups where I know there's one in Canberra in Australia called I think it's called Games Plus. They have like a Facebook group, and there's areas that should do meetups for indie game development. They're
Gotcha.
really good places you can do for networking. You can just show a lot of them. They'll be able to you can bring your computer and you can set up whatever you've been working on. If you have like a little game you can show, you can have people play it and provide feedback. And if people like it, you can like network there. They are really, really good. And if you can do it as well, just like crunch on your work as much as possible online, I think is a really good move. There's a lot of really good
Yeah.
courses, especially by Clinton Crumpler is his name on ArtStation, and he does a lot of really cool stuff with forget. I'm not real good with remembering names of
That's
places, but
that's
he
okay,
does.
man. That's okay.
Yeah, he does a lot of really. If you can find really good courses you can follow online and just really knuckle down and create some really awesome work from that, I think that's a really good move. And because it's hard just sitting at your desk all day and just doing
Of course.
art like nonstop. So it's really good if you can find those groups that are nearby so that you can show off your work and find other like-minded people that you can talk to and network with, and maybe there's someone there you might be looking for someone for work. You can pick up a bit of
Hmm.
a freelance gig. But uni is always an option as well, but myself going through it, I would recommend going the other route, um, because I think with this stuff, especially 3D art, there's so much stuff online that you can just look up on YouTube and just learn all yourself. It's not really necessary that you need to go to. If you're someone that is like that and really likes to meet up and socialize with people in that kind of space, like go for it if that's the way you want to learn. But I think a good alternative is to learn as much as you can online. And if you need to meet up with people, find these groups where you can hang out and show your games and yeah, just make friends in the field that you want to be working in.
That's awesome. I really like that. This whole space is like really, really interesting to me because although I seem like I think I might have an understanding of like what all goes into it, the process behind it, I then have to sit and realize like there's a team way bigger than I could ever imagine doing every single aspect of all of these
Yeah, it's a lot of
different
work. Yeah.
different games. I can imagine. Um, what is one of the biggest things that you've learned in the in your career through designing different environments, different games? What is something that like either A, you wish somebody had told you but nobody did and then you had to learn it yourself? Things you wish you knew at the beginning of the career that you know now from designing a few different environments for a few different games for a few different people or companies. Just stuff that like you would have wished you know either on a business aspect, on a design aspect, on a process aspect. What are some things on that front that you're like, damn, it would have been nice to know that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Oh, what is something? Time management I know is very, very important for me, and it's still something I'm trying to
Mhm.
get a hold of. That if you don't have that locked down,
Me
just
too.
like step back for a second and be like, all right, I'm gonna get this on track. Yeah. What else? I want to provide something else here. I don't really have anything like other than like the obvious
That's
thing.
all right,
Like
man.
communication is huge, man. Like
Yeah, I can imagine.
you need to you need to know
Considering
how
it's
to.
teamwork, yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to be able to communicate with all the other streams, like the designers and the programmers. Um, and if you're working from home, be prepared for the time differences because the dudes I work with, they're all like, I think I was working with a guy from Sweden, and there's a guy in America, Mexico. They're just, yeah,
Man,
they're all over the place. So yeah, make sure, if you're um, you can communicate with them and find a good way. Like Discord is great. And leaving messages, when they'll be online. Leave, like if they're not online,
sure,
just like talk to them and they'll come back and all that stuff. Yeah, that's all
sure.
I've got at the moment.
All those people that you work with that are all over,
Yeah,
right? So the people came to your university and they essentially scouted you out and ended up wanting to work with you. But then you said you had a guy in Sweden, you had a guy in the US, Mexico, you had all these different places. Did all of them get found in similar manners? Did some of them have really solid social media presence? Did some of them have a really solid portfolio presence? Was it word of mouth? Did they meet in fucking Finland and then all of a sudden here we are? Like what was that process like for them? And for somebody that maybe only has like the portfolio online and maybe doesn't or hasn't or won't go to uni or college or whatever it is where they are, and has that opportunity to be scouted and go to those meets. What are some other outlets that they can use? Because I know we covered that a little bit in the beginning, but specifically, I
yeah,
guess relating it
yeah.
directly to those people.
I'm really not sure because I came in the project like as they were kind of already here. I'm really not sure the process of how they were hired, unfortunately. But
Gotcha.
I
No
do notice
worries.
that a lot of them, they do have art stations up, and sometimes some of them have their own websites where they have all their art and all the previous projects they've worked on, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, and then what is the process of creating that BTS content? Sorry, this is like a total jump of the gun. Like I thought of it. I wanted to know because you mentioned like the art station and then wanting to create more content around it. What is the process around creating a behind the scenes piece of content where you show everything being assembled and then cutting to it actually being in its real world environment? What does that process look like for you on a content creation front?
Well, in terms of the way I did it, I do it a lot for like modular building breakdowns, especially like
Mm-hmm.
what you saw with Zomnom. So I would have the building just built in Blender, made up of all its individual pieces, and then we would keyframe animate, I guess, the like explosion of it, or show all the pieces flying in, so that gives a visual representation of like how it's built. And
Yep.
then we like render out that animation, and then once with the transition, once it was all rendered, I would obviously line up the camera so that it is had the right perspective to where like the game footage is, and I would
Right.
basically just zoom it in like from the position in Blender, and then when the building all comes together, zoom the camera in, make sure it's in like the same perspective and position as it was in game, and then just in an editing software, say like Sony Vegas, I just um put the clips together, and as long as that transition's lined up properly, you can see the breakdown into the game. And in terms of like individual assets, a program like a Marmoset tool bag is really good because then it's basically like a lighting studio. So if you're doing photography, you'd set up all your
Gotcha.
lights and have like that white area and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
it's basically that, but like in a virtual sense. So you bring it in the Marmoset, you set up all your lights. You can turn on a visualization view called like a wireframe mode, so it shows all the faces and how they're built, how the geometry of the mesh is built, because a lot of recruiters like to look at that, because you can have a really nice looking mesh, but if the geometry is just a mess and not professionally built, that might be a turn off. So if you can show that that is done professionally and is optimized for games or whatever you're building your stuff in, that's really great. Yeah, and Marmoset is a really good tool for showing that off.
Gotcha. That's awesome. One of my last questions, I think, unless I think of something else, which is highly likely. One of one of my last questions on that front is to kind of bring it full circle for experienced people, for beginners, and also for my own knowledge. And you don't have to disclose any super close details. However, when it comes to pricing, because you're a subcontractor, because you could be considered a freelancer in any scenario, how do you attack pricing for projects where you're going to be working in the short term, in the long term? Do you set prices? Do the companies come to you and offer you a set rate to work? Is it hourly? Is it contractually based? Is it a more like temp salary? Like, how does that kind of work as far as getting payment for the time that you put into a project, whether it's you going to somebody, whether it's somebody coming to you for it, and how do you move forward with that kind of like thought process?
Yeah, well, I don't really have much experience in going to someone and offering to work. If I were to do that, it's a bit controversial, but sometimes it is good to work for free to gain experience,
Yeah.
especially when you're not studying in a uni, because some unis I think do like incubator programs where you can actually go and be and work for a company for free through the uni and learn from that. But if you can actually get yourself as like an intern somewhere and just be in that environment, that can be just as good as uni, because people will be there like teachers teaching you how to do all your stuff. In terms of people coming to me, the way that worked was I got an email um, from the owner of Upsurge, and he gave me a breakdown on what he was after, and then he asked what my hourly rate could be. And at the moment, well, at the time, I was just doing fast food. I was like, okay, well, I was looking online at what like the kind of um, intern kind of environment artist kind of wage would be, and I think it was just above like what I was earning Army Jacks, and I thought, yeah, just basically, I think because it's a more of a skilled job, something you have to study for and learn. I was like, okay, just like a little bit above what I was earning there. I was earning, I think it was like $20 an hour at Hungry Jack's. You guys would call it Burger King. Over here it's Hungry
Uh-huh.
Jack's.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll start at $22. And from there I've been really fortunate, and my employer has actually just been like just raising that up.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, just yeah, basically, I haven't really had to ask. I think if I were to ask, I wouldn't just go ahead and ask for like a raise straight away, or I would ask what is that can be done first. Like, what would you like to see? And if you can do that, then you're in a position to ask, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, at the time when you were super new to the whole, like, what the hell do I charge these people? What the hell how do I, how do I approach that? Which is something I think every subcontractor and freelancer goes through at some point. Like, how do I price
Yeah.
things? At that point versus now, what would your starting and say somebody came to you and was like, all right, this is actually, before I get into that question, you said the guy sent you a breakdown of what he was looking for. How does somebody, what does something like that look like? Like, are they hyper specific, or do they just say, I need somebody to design this? And if they're not specific, how do you gain the details necessary to accurately depict or predict the workload that will be involved in that project?
Yeah, it is tricky. I think with everyone that would be quite different in terms of how much information you would get on the project, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
things with like games like NDAs, all that stuff. Um, so I didn't get much information at all. Most of the it was like I think it was my first thing was he wanted me to build a like a modular pipe kit for a game that I didn't really know much about yet. So
Gotcha.
I think it's really good to, especially in a creative field, to show some initiative. So you get like a pitch of what you're kind of after. Sometimes you would get like a concept, or it could be like a quick drawing or something detailed. But then you'd take that and you would look at what I do is I look at references online, and I try and get some extra ideas from that, and put together, say, a block out, or it would be a sketch maybe of what I am thinking to do with the it's like this pipe kit I was doing, what kind of the design would be, and then I would pitch that back to the client, and they would like, is yeah, that's great, or these things need to change. We'd kind of just go back and forth on the look of the asset, and and yeah, just go from there and work. The way I was working was just like a normal like hourly rate, and I would kind of you just have to kind of guess on how long that would take you to make that,
Gotcha.
and you get a feel for it as the more you work. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, naturally, with anything you do, you
Yeah.
kind of get an idea like how long something's going to take you. Things, obviously, your efficiency will improve over time. So I guess now that I have that question answered, knowing what you know now with the skills that you currently have and have developed through all of your work experience with various companies and clients, your starting rate before, you said you started them around like 22-ish. From there, starting at 22, where would you start now? If somebody came to you, what is your now 2.5 years of experience? Like, you've done this, been through the ropes, have a decent portfolio and really kick-ass environments, might I say as well, in that portfolio. Where would you start now? Ish, roughly, like ballpark it. Or if you don't want to disclose it, just let me know. But like,
Yeah, I'd probably just say like 30 an hour, and that's Australian, so probably be a bit lower in America because
gotcha.
of the price differences. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's because that's lower than what I'm earning now. But going into a new company, you don't want to be like, because I think that's kind of like a mid-range kind of environment artist way, just like from looking up online, kind of what the average hourly income of them. You don't want to go too crazy. I think you don't want to scare them off. I think it's important
Right.
to come in with like a rate that's gonna be appealing to the employer. Sometimes well, actually, yeah, I think an appealing rate, and then from there you can show them what you can do, and if you really blow them out of the water, you can start to maybe ask for a little bit more,
Right.
or yeah, ask what you can do, what they want to see in order to raise that up. Yeah,
Gotcha. So, and then you just kind of go up from there based on what
yeah,
they see,
basically,
what they like. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
That's really neat. And I appreciate all the information and being so willing to go forward and talk about, all the different projects and everything that you do. So now, outside of this design area, when you're not sitting behind a computer screen, or maybe the question will lead to other things, who are you outside of design? What do you like to do? Where do you go? What are some hobbies? Who is Jamie Jensen outside of the design workload?
interesting. Yeah, well, recently I think exercise has been really important for me. So I've been riding my bike a lot. I like to run a lot. I'm quite into, well, not I haven't dabbled too much in it, but I've been doing, see this little, like a little 3D print. I'll show the camera there.
Yo, that's
That's like
awesome.
one of the tower. It's so sketchy. Like, look at there's like some I don't know if it's gonna you're gonna be able to see it, but there's like broken bits and stuff. But it's like my
Yeah,
first 3D print
that's
model ever did.
awesome.
Yeah, it's just a tower from the Santorini level in Pavlov. I've been getting into, because well, actually the other night I was watching a movie with a couple of friends. We were painting like little figurines for Star Wars Legion, where it's
Nice.
basically a game where it's a big board game. You just play with a bunch of Star Wars characters. It's
Yep.
real nerdy stuff.
Well, it's
I like
well,
to
it's
play a lot of
similar to
board
like
games.
it's similar to like Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer 40K, games
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
with the minifigs. I think I've seen Star Wars Legion. I think they sell some of the figs at my local card shop because I'm there a lot because I absolutely love
yeah, yeah.
stuff like that as well. I'm all in for the nerdy shit.
Yeah, so you can actually, what my friend has been doing, he's been printing a bunch of the soldiers out, and they come just, they're a blank slate basically of just plastic, a lot like this. This is a like a resin print, and then
Uh-huh.
you go from there, you prime it, and then you paint all little details on there, and then
Yep.
eventually you get like this really cool like painted army.
Yup. I absolutely love it about that. That's one thing that I like about those types of things is you get to actually like create it. Like, if you go the route of buying the minifigs, you lose a step in the design, in the printing, in the actual birth process. However, I do like the fact that if you don't have a 3D printer, you still have access to the minifigs, and
Yeah,
the minifigs are still like raw almost, so you can still edit them, you can still
yeah,
paint them,
yeah.
you can still
You
you
can
can
buy
still
them like
have that
unpainted and
process.
paint them yourself. Yeah, yeah.
It's so much fun. So exercise. games, nerdy shit, stuff like that. Absolutely love it, dude. That's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I really need to start taking more photos too, man. I
Dude, do
haven't done
that.
that
'Cause
in
you
so
dabbled in
long.
photography too, huh?
Yeah, I've got a camera, a really old camera, but it does the job. Um, yeah, I really do enjoy it. Like I did it a lot during uni days. I used to go out to Sydney and just like snap random photos and stuff. Do a lot of like
Yep.
self portraits is what I did. Like the start of my Instagram is just me just taking photos of myself.
Yes,
Just
exactly.
like setting up the camera and being like, "Yo."
Those are some of the
Yeah.
most fun though.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's really fun just going out just to a new place and just finding cool locations and taking photos with your friends.
Yep.
I really need to start doing that more often. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I feel the same
Yeah.
way. A lot of times when I go to like visit other parts, because I live in Florida,
Mhm.
and anytime I go to like visit a friend or something, or I visit like a new area where I haven't really been, like for example, I visited a friend up in Gainesville, which is about 2.5 hours north of where I live, and I hadn't really been up there too much, or if I had, it was work related, and I didn't have a lot of time to like lounge around, right? But because I was just up there, after I left them and I was like going home, I was like, I kind of just want to walk around. So I did. And then I was like, oh, this looks pretty. This looks cool. So I just started taking pictures. Next thing I know, I had like 150 pictures that day of random shit, me, like whatever, just everywhere. It's a lot of fun getting to
Hell
play
yeah.
around and create imagery in the real world.
Yeah. Some of the like some really good memories I have is just like if you it's going on like a photography trip, you just like jump on a train.
Yes.
So what I did, I jumped on a train into Sydney. I like booked some random hotel, which actually ended up being really cool because it had like a rooftop, and I could see like a lot of Sydney. And I was like taking photos up there. It was like no one was up there because it was like
That's
this
awesome.
kind of dingy hotel, but not.
I
Like, it
gotcha.
wasn't bougie at all. Normally, I stay in like those they have like they have them a lot in Japan. I think that's like pod hotels. You know what I'm talking about? There's just
Um,
they have like
I
just shelves of
think.
pods that everyone just goes in. They have like your own little pod to sleep in, and they're just
Oh,
like
yes, I have heard
really
of that.
yeah,
How is that? I don't think we have much of that like here. I've always wanted to try it
dude.
because it seems so weird and
They're
interesting.
so cool. Everyone kind of
Really?
keeps to themselves. You have your own little locker to put your stuff in, and then it's like a sci-fi design. So you go in, it's all white, and you got a little mirror. It's all your own air conditioning in your little pod. Yeah, it's cool, man. I like it.
Bro, that's wild. Like you're just walking down a hallway full of just holes in the wall.
Yeah, full of pods, and you climb up to your own little pod in your ladder, and yeah, and then it's great because it's so cheap, and when you're at a hotel, you're just there to sleep anyways. So
Right.
you jump in your pod, sleep, and then you go out to town, do whatever. And yeah, the one I used to go to, I haven't been there in a while because of freaking COVID, but it
Yep.
was across the road from like an internet cafe, and they have like all these gaming PCs, and you just go in, pay for a couple bucks, and then just like play games. Yeah, it was mad. Yeah.
Whoa, that's freaking awesome. Two
Yeah.
things. I don't want to get too deep into it because like fuck it. But how was COVID where you're at? How did they treat it? How is it now? How was it before?
Yeah, I got pretty lucky for a while. I was living in Queensland, so away from a lot of the big cities, and it didn't really
Good.
affect me much at all for for like the first year in COVID. But now that I've moved closer to Sydney, I'm actually in like a really like big lockdown at the moment, which is
Oh,
pretty
gotcha.
shitty. Like all the retail stores are closed. Only things open are like the supermarkets and like service stations. Anything non-essentials closed, like construction's all stopped. Yeah, it's getting pretty crazy at
That's
the moment.
wild.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been really fortunate though to have this job where I can just work from home, work on the internet. So
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not I'm doing okay. But
You can
yeah,
go anywhere, be anywhere, do anything. That's
yeah.
really really good.
hmm yeah.
Now, I love when you said it, the internet cafes where they just have like gaming PCs just there, like pay
But
a
yeah,
couple bucks to
this one
use.
place I went to, I don't know anywhere else that has it, but yeah, it just I had just rows and rows of just gaming PCs. You see all these people in there playing
That's
like League
so
of
awesome.
Legends and stuff. Yeah,
Naturally, the only game that people can play that their computers can't run. But
yeah.
That's
Yeah, it was
wild.
just a really cool joint. You'd all just hang out there and play games.
No,
Yeah.
it's funny because a friend of mine and I threw out a very similar idea. We were like, what if we started a giant ass like gaming cafe in like Orlando or Tampa? We like threw out that idea, and I'm like, wow, that like exists. That's so awesome.
Yeah, dude, in Canberra, there's this nightclub that has it's like a full on nightclub, partying, everything. There's a full bar, and then they just have like consoles set up and gaming PCs where you can just like get wasted and play like party games on Xbox while
Yo,
there's like throbbing music just going. Everyone's just partying. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy nightclub, that one.
that's
Yeah, I remember
wild.
I went to that when Apex Legends was pretty hot, and I was just like
Oh
playing battle
yes.
royale like in the club.
I'm all see. I'm still on
Yeah.
Apex. I still love Apex. I love me a little bit of
Yeah,
Apex.
Apex
So
is pretty great. Yeah.
so in your downtime, do you play a lot of games like at home, or did you just do it mostly as like a treat when you were out? Did you do that?
I play socially for them. Okay, so I spend so much time alone just like developing games. Like when I want to play games, it's really cool just to jump in with a bunch of friends. So I play Call of Duty a lot, like the
That's what I was gonna ask. What do you play? What
Modern
do you play a
Warfare
lot?
one, Modern Warfare 2019. I just play a
Uh-huh.
lot of this
Yep.
core on that. Yeah.
As the rap goes on your Instagram feed, you got that Modern Warfare rap that I found. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, to go in on that.
Uh,
It's like the only song I can remember, and I still don't remember like all the words. I'm so trash at remembering lyrics. But
it's a lot of
yeah, I
fun though,
do
reading stuff
enjoy
like
Call
that.
of Duty. Yeah, I'm
That's
really,
good.
really
That's
hyped
good.
for the new Battlefield 2049, dude. Or was it 2042? Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
it's it's gonna be sick, dude. If you haven't seen much of that game, have a little look into it because yeah, it's gonna be so cool when it comes
I
out on
will.
October 22nd. Yeah, I'm really keen. So I played so much
20.
Battlefield 3. I think it's 2042.
Yeah, it's 2042.
Yeah, the trailer is wild. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I reckon.
That's awesome.
Lots
That's
of new
that's gonna
stuff
be
coming to that.
exciting. How do you
Yeah.
just comparing what you do right now already, or what you have done for companies in the past with the teams that you've had available to you or to work with, versus a game as big as that? How do you think that they compare team size, timeline, like how just insane, like how
Oh.
much how much code do you think those people have to do to keep to stay going?
Dude, EA and Dice, those are the guys, man. That's like really up there. Like they've got to be like they're a real bunch of professionals, those guys. Because I think I think there's three separate studios that are working on that game across like all the different
Wow.
game modes. I think Dice LA has been specifically developing like an experience for that game that hasn't even been announced yet. Or maybe I think there's a EA Play conference happening very, very soon. I'm really excited to check that. Maybe it's already happened, but yeah, that experience is kind of maybe gonna be revealing like remastered maps from the old Battlefield. Would be really cool. But yeah, those guys like they can because there's so many other different teams working on it. They're probably and they're trying to pump out like a new title for Battlefield like every couple of years. Like the
Man.
the work that goes into them and just getting them through. Because like I think there's probably been maybe two Battlefields in like the whole development cycle of Pavlov, and still the Battlefield games are so big. I'm not sure exactly how big those teams are, but yeah, they definitely have a lot of really, really talented people behind them. Yeah, it
And
would
probably
really cool to one day actually yeah be able to work for those guys or Sledgehammer as well. A new
yep.
studio actually opened up in Melbourne, Australia. I've been looking at called Sledgehammer Games, and they're developing, I think, the next Call of Duty. So yeah, it'd be cool to say hi. I
That's
think one
awesome.
of the guys I was working for is actually working for them now, and he's like, "Yo, come put in your portfolio." And I haven't done my breakdowns or anything yet, so I did kind of hold off. Yeah, that'd be
Bro, get
cool.
on that. That's a good opportunity if they actually take a moment to look at it.
Yeah, it would be cool to see how I go. Like if I can, because a lot of companies as well, they would make you do like an art test. Oh yeah, it's something we should talk about as well. Maybe if you're like freelancing, someone would want to get an art test from you, so they would pitch something, and if you able to do that in like a good enough quality, then you would be hired on, and they'd be confident in your abilities then. So yeah, art
Sure.
tests because they'll probably give you like a weekend to make like a prop, and then yeah, if that's good enough, that's a really good way to show to your client that you're capable of doing this work and yeah, all
Sure.
that stuff.
Gotcha. So, just out of curiosity, because I come from a performing arts background, musical theater, and
Yeah.
the casting process is one where you could walk into a room, perform your piece, you know, speak your monologue, and then you walk out of the room, and then you might not hear from them for that project, but then all of a sudden, a year and a half later, the way that these casting directors operate is like they can see 150 people, within a day, or they can see, multiple hundreds of people in a day, multiple thousands over the course of, a few weeks. And even still, if you have a certain impression on them, a month, 6 months, a year and a half, sometimes even as long as like a year and 3/4 or two, these people can still remember, like, who is that girl or who is that guy who did this piece at this audition? Who were they? Dig up their paperwork, that type of thing. They can remember that stuff. The reason I bring that up is if you were to show your portfolio to a company and they don't have any projects that are right for you at the time, are the people who are working in the hiring aspect of this industry the type of people that if you showed it to them and then maybe updated every so often or kept in touch, whatever, they would be the types of people that say, "Yo, we have this project going on. There was this one designer. I remember seeing a piece of work that aligns with the vision." Is that how they would operate in that sense?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I haven't had any experience with that myself, but yeah, you might not just have the right art style that the company is looking for at the time. You could be doing something stylistic, and then you try and
Right.
get on board with something realistic, and they're just not after that. Or the way you produce that, but you could be really smashing it in the stylized scene. So then they're like start a new project, and then they're like, okay, we need some stylized, like more artists that are good at stylized art, and then they could remember
Gotcha.
you. And then at that point, it's important to be updating your portfolio because they'll probably check you out. And if you're doing
Right.
even more new, awesome, cool stuff, they're likely maybe to send you a DM, like, yo, come
Right.
talk to us. Maybe we'll get you on another art test, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Right.
I think that
That's
could, yeah,
awesome.
definitely happen. Yeah.
That's really good. So keep your portfolio up to date. Post on as many portfolios as possible. Post on social medias. Give breakdowns of your work so that people can see what you do, see how you do it efficiently and effectively. Network, find people, find groups, study it wherever you choose to do that, and just go for it full send.
Yeah.
Kind of
Breakdowns
just,
is
just
a really big thing. Yeah.
really,
I love
really
it. I
big.
love seeing a portfolio, like, because you can have like a really cool looking work. Some artists would put up because as well as because it's a lot of the stuff we do is very very team based. So if you just put up photos of this is a game I worked on, and you see like some really really awesome art, that's not really enough for a recruiter to be like, oh, this person's great, let's hire them, because they don't really know exactly what you worked on within that project. If
Right.
you show the final images of what you created and then have separate to them, you bring the props out and actually break down what you made and show that you understand it and can produce it, then
Right.
yeah, that's just a really good way of showing off your work. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's really good. That's one thing I liked about the ArtStation portfolios is that I could click, see something really really neat, click on the map because like I want to see that, and then specifically Zamnam seems to be one of your more thorough pieces where you have almost literally everything kind of laid out, all the models and everything, um, where I could see the map and I'm like, this looks really really neat. Like I love games that are this style of like art and stuff like
Yeah.
that, not like hyper realistic. I'm not jumping into a Skyrim game or an Elder Scrolls game, but I'm also not in 8-bit Minecraft. Like that's not like, that kind of like in between
Yeah.
realm, almost
Yeah.
like Terraria almost. I love
Yeah.
that. And getting to see the cool map and I was like, this is really, really neat, watching the little trailer for it, and then getting to scroll down and see this is exactly what you did. These are the models. And it's almost interesting, not even just to see specifically you, but from a perspective where I understand process, but I didn't understand this exact industry, getting to sit and see like, oh, these are actually all individual assets literally built out. This is what goes into each of those individual assets. This is where they're put. This is, you know, everything that goes into it. So it's really, really nice to see literally you have every wall, every floor piece, every
Yeah.
crane, every outdoor piece laid out outside. You've got that, one part of the map where you're showing putting like some moss on the wall, stuff like that. I really really like seeing, because it gave me a lot of insight into like the environment, because I was like, whoa, this 3D, this environment where it's like you're moving on a 2D plane, but I'm like, what goes into everything? How is this all designed? And then getting to see that it's actually a 3D space that you play on the 2D plane, how you design it, was just really really fascinating to me.
Yeah. Did you feel like the video showreel kind of things were helpful in that and
I
showing how
think that
things
they're
work?
extraordinarily helpful. Getting to
Yeah.
see a little bit more, behind the scenes of exactly what's going on. Getting to, I mean, I would have, like, just because I'm big about like details, a lot of people are probably okay with exactly what's here. For me, I'm the kind of person that would see something like what you have here and then go try to find like a walkthrough or an overview or something that shows in even more grandiose detail the nittiest grittiest details possible, because this stuff like this is very fascinating to me just on
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
on a design standpoint, because it's something that I'm not very good at, design wise, is designing things. But no, just every individual asset, the videos, the motion. I really enjoyed seeing you move the moss from on its horizontal plane up to the wall, showing exactly how that changed everything,
Oh,
and
yep.
literally everything from the power line cables and the bushes on the ground, how all of that stuff is kind of put in, and it was just very very fascinating to
Yeah,
me,
I think
just
yeah,
learning.
having it as like a video or even a GIF is super valuable. I
Yes,
think yeah,
if
something
and
I really want to put together is like maybe when I'm have a bit more time away from Pavlov, is it an actual like a show reel, like a very quick 2 minute video that someone can watch and actually see all this stuff you've done just broken
yep,
down, because there's a lot you can do in that. And I
yeah,
think if you have a really solid video show reel, I think it's good just to have that. I think in not just environment art, but like design, even photography, all that stuff. Just something really quick, not too long.
right.
Not any like blaring dubstep music.
Nope,
So something
something,
simple, clean, and can
an
just break
easy
down and
watch.
show yeah what you've been
Yeah, of
able to
course.
create and explain it is really good. Yeah.
That's awesome. This was really good, man. I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking about this, because it's something that's really interesting to me just to learn about, um, and to sit and talk with somebody that's been doing it and has the experience is just really, really valuable. And I think a lot of people can get a little bit of value from something like this, hearing from somebody who's been doing it. Although you have a lot of skills, you're also not like an 8 or 15 year vet at it. It's
I
like
am very
you
new,
get
yes.
you get to hear it from an accomplished person who still remembers the process of really getting into everything, which I think will be really really valuable for people
Yeah,
coming in.
yeah.
But I appreciate you coming on. Is there any like last like details or anything you want to like throw out there for me, for anybody listening, for just as far on any front, of anything we've talked about? Is there anything that I haven't asked that you feel designers should be asked more often? Anything on that front?
No, I think you've done a pretty damn good job. It's yeah, just like yeah, thank you for your interest. Like yeah, I've never really done this before, so I really
Yeah,
hope I'm able to provide some kind of value to someone listening out there. That would be yeah, really cool if yeah,
yeah.
someone you can get something out of this. Yeah.
100%, absolutely. And I'll send you like the files and stuff so you can create content out of this yourself, just so that you can have it for your own pages as well for whatever you want to put out there. But
Sure,
thank
yeah,
you
that'd
so
be
much for
interesting.
coming
Yeah.
on. This is good. Let's not make this the last. I think after digesting what we've talked about here and maybe doing a little bit more research into it and having more conversations with you, I'll probably come up with some more questions. And I think it'll be good to have you back on. Maybe if we did a follow-up episode in like a year after you finish Pavlov, or in a year and a half or two when you finish Pavlov, and then maybe do another project and then go on from there. It'll be good to have a follow-up episode and be like, remember this, remember this. All right, where are we at now? Like, a little check-in every so often, I think would be a lot of fun. So
Yeah, that would actually yeah, that would be really great, dude. Yeah, I'd
that'd
enjoy
be
that.
good.
Yeah.
And just for context for everybody listening, Jamie and I met online through Instagram, right? It was the it was a group chat that we were added into from a D-Rock networking post, which is D-Rock is an influencer on Instagram who occasionally makes a post where people can network in the comments because he has such a large entrepreneurially based audience, so people can network and do whatever. I put my stuff in there. This guy Jack Plumley made a group chat. Jamie and I were both in it. Here we are. So it's
that's crazy how that works.
Works. I know.
Yeah.
Like I've made so many friends just through that. Like people that are all over the world. I've got friends where you're at. I've got friends just everywhere. Canada, the US, and I think I quite literally have a friend in almost every country. Because of this fucking online space and what you can do with it.
That group chat is like everyone is all over the place. Hey, I've been talking to so many of them. They're all such awesome people, dude. Yeah,
they are, and I'm like, I want every single one of those guys on it.
You'll need to like meet up, dude. That'd be sick. Oh,
it would be. I mean,
when travel is a thing.
Ali's already thrown out her place being a good meet spot. So anyway,
yeah.
All right. Anyway, to wrap it up, man, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I hope that somebody gains value from it. Thank you so much for coming to watch or listen to this podcast on your way to work, before you go to bed, whatever you're doing. I hope you learned a little something. And until next time, we'll see you in the next episode where I don't know what I'm going to be talking about, but we'll figure it out as we go. See you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, dude.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Not Another Podcast. Just like I said in the beginning, I would greatly appreciate it if you would go write us a review, follow the podcast so you never miss another episode, and share this with one friend who might find value in what I or a guest said during the show. Rob Dial always says, make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. And that quote, ever since I started listening to his podcast, has really changed my thinking as far as how I go about my daily life. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave you the way that Rob Dial leaves you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better, and I hope that you guys have an amazing day.